What's up everyone and welcome back to the MMA Zone. Today, let's get started with Robert Whittaker sends a warning to Khamzat Chimaev. This summer, former middleweight champion Robert Whittaker will compete against streaking contender Khamzat Chimaev at the UFC's inaugural event in Saudi Arabia. Given the middleweight title picture, the bout could very well see the winner declared as the #1 contender at 185 pounds. Ahead of the fight, the MMA community seems largely confident that Whittaker's combination of striking, cardio, and takedown defense could spell trouble for Chimaev. This week, during a recent episode of former flyweight kingpin Demetrius Johnson's Mighty Cast, Whittaker opened up on the fight, sending a warning to his opponent.
I'm going to go in there with a speed advantage and a striking advantage. I'm going to that he can force the wrestling on people, and I think it's going to be a little harder to force the wrestling on me just because of my distance, because of my control of spacing, and he goes out there with undoubted confidence. You know, that makes a very dangerous recipe, but it's something that, like, if it gets shaken, then you don't know which way the cards are gonna fall, sort of thing. So I'm looking forward to testing that to see how big the hype is, if you would.
Whittaker is of course eager to build on a recent UFC 298 win over Paulo Costa that returned him to the win column after a stunning TKO loss to Dricus du Plessis at UFC 290. Chimaev, on the other hand, is looking to build on a narrow win over Kamaru Usman back at UFC 294. With the fight rapidly approaching in June, Chimaev currently sits as a slight favorite on DraftKings at -166 odds, while Whittaker is a +140 underdog. Next up, let's take a look at Israel Adesanya versus Dricus du Plessis at UFC 305. Since his narrow victory over Sean Strickland earlier this year, it's continued to look as though Dricus du Plessis and Israel Adesanya will compete with one another for the champ's first title defense. While there hasn't been an official announcement from the UFC regarding the date for the bout, du Plessis recently took to social media on the heels of reports that the UFC would head back to Perth later this year, hinting at the pair throwing down on the card. In a post on Instagram, he wrote, "Looks like someone wants another beating in Oz. I'm in. I also wouldn't want to fight the King of Africa on home soil. Manifestation's working good for you again." According to Ariel Helwani, the UFC has yet to offer the fight to either side. However, both parties want the fight and are expected to sign if it is offered. While some have questioned whether it's fair for du Plessis to make his first title defense in enemy territory, there's no denying that Adesanya headlining a card in Perth would do massive numbers. BetOnline.ag has set opening lines for the fight under their futures section, with both du Plessis and Adesanya sitting at -110 odds, indicating that this fight is a pick'em. With both parties interested, it'll be interesting to see if and when the bout winds up getting announced. Next up, let's take a look at MMA community roasts Ariel Helwani. The latest installment of the MMA Hour saw Ariel Helwani on the receiving end of some criticism from Joaquin Buckley, who indicated that he feels as though when fighters appear on the MMA Hour, Helwani attempts to use them in his crusade of sorts against the UFC.
Obviously, you have the respect, what you do, and you do it very well. You got a lot of, facts, right, that you keep down about the UFC and about different fighters. But me personally, I feel like when we come on your show, you try to use us as a weapon against the UFC, right? You use your platform, but you try to set us up low key, right?
For real.
With certain questions that fighters you already know, if we have those conversations and what we try to talk about could have us get in trouble with who we work for.
Like what? Give me an example.
There's a lot of things, man. You know better for myself.
Fans were quick to react to the situation, with MMA Guru writing, "I hereby take back anything bad I may have said about Buckley in anger after he beat my Luque. This guy is based." Another added, "I like Ariel, but Joaquin is correct. Ariel stays asking about contracts, pay, etc., that he knows the fighters can't talk about." One member of the MMA community also added, "Buckley is correct. Ariel always tries to say something about Dana/the UFC to get a reaction out of the fighters. Ariel trying to spin it and say he doesn't is crazy. I like Ariel, but the cap is immaculate." Another fan wrote, "Nah, Ariel encourages fighters to speak out. Some do and are currently getting paid out for standing up for themselves, while others are too intimidated to do so. It's understandable not wanting to ruffle feathers with Dana and company, but that's not on Ariel." Another member took Buckley's side, writing, "Ha ha ha, absolutely cooked Ariel Helwani. It's the truth though. Every chance he gets, he's poking the bear, asking about fighter pay or what they think of situations the UFC is trying to sweep under the rug. Gets called out point blank and then pretends to be shocked." Next, let's take a look at Garry calls out Shavkat Rakhmonov. After his UFC 299 win, Jack Della Maddalena left the MMA community stunned as he called out Shavkat Rakhmonov. a streaking contender who many consider to be one of the biggest threats in the welterweight division. Despite that, undefeated Irish star Garry recently name-dropped the Nomad in an interview with MMA Fighting, earning some praise from the MMA community while indicating that after defeating Colby Covington, he wants to compete against a fighter of Rakhmonov or Kamaru Usman's caliber.
I mean, it could get me a title shot because everyone's going to talk about me and Colby. And when I knock Colby out and I retire him, everyone's going to talk about me. So beating someone of his profile, beating someone with the respect that the fans give him, puts me in that position that if I wanted, I could call for a title shot and I could get it. But I don't want a title shot after this. I want to beat another. I want to beat one of the baddest men on the planet. I want to fight an Usman, a Shavkat.
After that, Garry has set his sights on competing for the title. Of course, before that, the UFC must first finalize a bout between he and Colby Covington. Although Garry has made it clear that he wants the fight, the former interim champ has made a series of demands he wants the Irish star to comply with before he accepts. Garry, of course, has no plans to give in to Covington's demands. Now, let's shift gears and take a look at Jamahal Hill furious with UFC media. Former light heavyweight champion Jamahal Hill recently took aim at ESPN for grading the light heavyweight division as a whole a D-. Ahead of his upcoming UFC 300 headliner with Alex Pereira, Hills has continued to go back and forth with fans on social media. After seeing that ESPN graded the 205-pound division as a D- division, Hill responded in the comments section on Instagram, writing, "The disrespect is crazy. Headlining UFC 300 main and prelims, but light heavyweight is weak? They call us to save the cards." Fans were quick to react to the situation, with one writing, "Let's be honest, is Jamahal Hill ever not crying about something?" Another weighed in, writing, D- is generous. Alex wouldn't touch the belt if he was at any other weight class. The fact that a 42-year-old Glover won the belt shows how bad that division is. Hill and Yuri would struggle to even be top 3 in a lot of other divisions. Another added, "Does he not get that they call us to save cards is literal proof of the division being shit? They go to light heavyweight and heavyweight when they run out of options." One Alex Pereira fan wrote, "As much of a fan of Pereira as I am, the way he surged through middleweight and light heavyweight is absolutely a testament to how poor those divisions are. D- is generous, man." Another member of the MMA community offered a different perspective, writing, "Little does Jamahal know that if it wasn't for Alex, he wouldn't be main eventing 300. And even then, it's mostly just because they needed a title main event, LMAO. Next, let's take a look at Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington next. One of the most bitter rivalries in recent memory is the welterweight rivalry between Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington, which has seen the pair go to war on 2 separate occasions. The first time around, Usman finished Covington, with the Nigerian Nightmare then picking up a decision when they squared off at UFC 268 in a highly anticipated rematch. While many assumed that with 2 wins, and Covington continuing to slip down the welterweight rankings, the rivalry had come to an end. That may not be the case though. In a recent post on Instagram, Usman teased a trilogy bout between the two, showing an image of them meeting in the center of the octagon for a stare down, along with the caption, "When it's all aligned." Of course, Garry is adamant that he wants to not only fight Covington, but retire the former interim champ. In the previously referenced interview with MMA Fighting, Garry put Covington on notice.
"I'm going to retire you. And all of Brazil is going to have a smile on their face when I knock you unconscious and leave you in a puddle of your own blood, face down on the canvas. Colby, you're done."
While it's unclear what route the UFC will look to go to, both options would certainly produce fireworks for Covington's next fight. Next, let's take a look at Petr Yan reveals next UFC fight. After snapping a 3-fight skid that saw him lose a pair of narrow split decisions before then falling to Merab, Petr Yan is eager to go on a revenge tour. While former rival Aljamain Sterling is preparing to make his featherweight debut at UFC 300, Yan has his sights set on avenging his other losses. "I told you, it's going to be rematch season. I'm interested in Sean O'Malley, Merab. I'm not interested in Sterling. He's a different weight. I'm interested in Marlon Vera, guys who are in the top 5. When asked why Henry Cejudo wasn't on his hit list, Yan indicated that after Triple C's loss to Merab, a fight between the two is out of the question, and he would rather compete against someone near him in the rankings. On UFC.com, Yan is currently ranked at number 4 in the division, with Chito Vera just behind him, ranked 5th, and Corey Sandhagen ranked 3rd, just ahead of him. With Vera and Yan both indicating that they would like to fight in November, it'll be interesting to see what the coming months bring for the bantamweight division. Justin Gaethje sends a warning to Max Holloway. Gaethje said in a recent YouTube video that he believes Max Holloway won't go to sleep the traditional way, but he will try everything he can to make the doctors stop the fight at UFC 300. Here's what Gaethje had to say.
"I will finish Max. He might not go to sleep the traditional way, but I think I will inflict enough damage to where the doctors need to stop it."
The MMA community goes off on Ronda Rousey after she claimed that she was the greatest of all time and made excuses for her losses in the UFC. This is what Ronda had to say.
my first loss, I was not like, my mouth guard was bad. I literally came into that fight concussed from slipping down some stairs already after all of these years of, concussions. And then I had absolutely terrible weight cut, which, that means you have less fluid in your brain to protect it. And I was out on my feet for the entire fight. I was just trying to make it look like I wasn't hurt, but I wasn't there cognitively. I couldn't think as fast. I couldn't judge distance. And just from that one fight, everybody felt like, oh, she's a fraud. And I know that I'm the greatest fighter that has ever lived, but when it got to a point where I'd just taken so much neurological damage that I couldn't take it anymore.
Here's what the MMA community thought of this interview. Poor girl still suffering from CTE. I hope she finally got a good mouth guard. Stand up was never her game, and she thought she could go toe-to-toe against 2 expert strikers and got her kicked. That's the whole story. Dana and his marketing really got her believing something. I used to love Ronda, but man, she showed her true colors after that home fight. Seems like she is still in denial that her window closed and she was never the same after that. Nearly every dominant fighter falls. Aldo, Silva, Penn, etc. She did too. There's nothing wrong with it. Her neurological damage has made her delusional as well. It took this long to come up with these excuses. There were doctors that would have stopped her from taking more damage. She was a good fighter and opened many doors for women's MMA. Best that ever lived? Hardly. She bought into her own hype far too much to the point she can never accept herself losing. That's the real reason people look at her away, but she can't accept it. All she's ever had to do is face the music, but she never will. Come on, she can't honestly believe that. One of? Sure. A pioneer of women's MMA? Absolutely. But the greatest? I mean, it's not like she walked away without 2 resounding losses on her resume. Top comments. Weidman jumping that fence like he KO'd Silva was 100% cringe. As an old school fan, I usually know what's going on behind the scenes, but I'm confused by all the weak cards UFC is putting out. I like Weidman, but that fight shouldn't be called a TKO win. No way. Buckley should not get ranked above Chris Curtis. Money. Make sure to leave a comment and you might get featured in our next video. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications to never miss any MMA news. Check out our video from yesterday if you missed it. See you tomorrow.